Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Derek Bullen. We're going to be talking about business, entrepreneurship, and all those type of wonderful things. In defense of wealth, a modest rebuttal to the change the rich are bad for society. He says, are the rich bad for society? The author of the book, a successful Canadian entrepreneur who's made his fortune and created 3,000 jobs, has written a manifesto celebrating the achievements of people who have earned their wealth. He says the manner of the critics are overlooking one crucial thing. We need business people to build companies and generate wealth to keep the economy going. That's the only way to generate the wealth that pays the government services like health and education. He says it's hard to feel empathy for the rich. Here's why. The poor will always be with us. You don't know or what you don't understand. A few people frame or reference the tremendous amount of work entrepreneurs and wealth creators do. The long hours, the dedication, the need to succeed must be similar in many ways to the athlete working hard to turn their talent into a career. There are multiple misconceptions about the rich. The first thing most people don't know is that you cannot become rich without paying most of the money you make to everyone else first. Take example, in 2020, the value of Amazon increased by, oh my God, 570 billion on paper. But Jeff Bezos earns about 10%. So his net worth from the company he founded increased by 57 billion. At the same time, the remainder 530 billion, just over $500 billion, was created for everyone else who isn't a shareholder of the Amazon. I think this is something we actually do not understand about shareholders and things like this. We're inclined to just kind of hit on who's rich and who's poor, and we don't actually understand how it's all balanced and how it does all work. Yes, admittedly, there are some rich people that could share their wealth a great deal better, but without the rich people, we would be even poorer. So his book, In the Defense of Wealth, a modest rebuttal to the change are rich or bad for society. We're going to be talking about that book today, and also about our perceptions of what is rich, who is rich. Now, first and foremost, I'm always saying to everybody, your enrichment and your abundance has to come from within. It doesn't matter what your bank account is or how rich, popular, or anything else in life. If you're not enriched from the inside, you're pretty well poor. But people with money generate incomes for other people. And I think this is something that we kind of lost track of, haven't we, Derek? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sarah. That was amazing. You have done your homework. Well said. Yeah, there's who's rich. I think everybody thinks who's rich is somebody who has more than them.
Yes.
And it's been around since forever. It's even in the Bible. Don't covet what your neighbor has, because somebody will always have something more than you. And it can be money, it can be talent, it can be relationships. We're all unique. But riches come to mean somebody who has more money than you, I think, in society.
Yes.
And you're very right about what you say, how it works with shareholders and companies and employees. Your Amazon example was very, very good. Who owns the majority of Amazon is not Jeff Bezos. It's banks, insurance companies, governments, unions. And so that $500 billion asset value on paper, if you got a home loan for a car, if somebody in the States or somewhere else on the planet is on their pension, if you got strike pay from a union, if you got some services from the government, there is a little bit of Amazon wealth in all of that. And then at the same time, Amazon paid out in that same year $46 billion in wages out to 1.6 million people. It's like a small country really,
Right. Yeah.
if you think about it. And those people sustained their families, sustained themselves. It gave financial independence to a large crowd. And Amazon, I think, has one of the highest minimum wage in the United States, over $18 an hour. And they have a job for everybody. If you didn't finish high school, even if you didn't finish junior high or middle school, they've got a job for you. If you have an MBA from Wharton, they've got a job for you, And being a CEO and creating a company like Steve Jobs did with Apple, with Wozniak, like Elon Musk did, you do pay out most of the money along the way to everybody else in salaries, in taxes, in rent, in services. And only if you did a good job, there's some for you at the end. And we forget too about the companies that didn't do that.
Mm.
Like Yahoo was, for a period of time, the search engine was over $5 billion, worth, and down to almost zero,
Yeah.
after Google came out. Blockbuster was the same. I think at their
Mm.
peak, they were close to 5 billion, and there were all Blockbusters everywhere. And we were all there renting videos, buying candy on Friday nights, and then bankrupt,
Yes.
shortly after Netflix comes out. And we forget that there's tremendous risk. And just how you talked about athletes, CEOs and entrepreneurs who create these companies, they're like athletes. If an athlete has a bad injury, it's the end of their career.
Yes.
If a CEO has a bad injury in the company, it's the end of that company. It's really, really sad. And so there's risks taken trying to get to the top. And I don't know what it's like to be an elite athlete because I never was one, but I do know you have to start making different choices when you want to play in the NHL, the NBA,
Yes.
about what you eat, how you train, what you do, what you study. And you must love the game
Yeah.
incredibly because you spend so much time with it. I would say CEOs and entrepreneurs, we all love the game because we spend an incredible, insane amount of hours running, considering, thinking, working on and in our business. And when I talk to other CEOs, it's like, well, I like to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually what I do.
Yeah. It's the meaningful purpose, isn't it? And then
It
we all need
is.
to when we find something that really does mean something to us, and we know it's a contribution. You know, I'm a big advocate for every single one of us contributing to our presence here on earth. When it's not sit back and just like let somebody else take care of you. We've all got something to give. We've all got something to
Mm-hmm.
share. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what level it's at. COVID and the whole pandemic has shown us who really the heroes are. The people that got the food to the grocery stores, the people in the grocery stores, the nurses and the janitors and everybody else that kept us going. And we kind of dismissed them for a long time as that it's a lowly job. You're a lowly person. You're not worth much because you're not the big CEO. And that is just purely society's perception of what's important and who's
Yeah.
made them so important. Yeah, the CEOs that are generating all that money and that income, most certainly important. The other thing we need to look at is our own consciousness of why we're doing something. How are we treating people in getting rich when we are generating those salaries and everything
Mm-hmm.
else? Is the humanity in there? There's a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful gentleman out of Germany I interviewed in my Let's Get Sync series. And he started a company called Pure Necessity. And it's all about people, planet for profit, not profit at the expense of people and planet. And I think
Mm.
for a while we did go off kilter there. And I think our consciousness now and the demand from the public to change that perception has become more about invest in your people in the company, invest in the planet resources, the profit will come. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that perception is changing. But to attack the rich for being rich and working hard, is it just a jealousy based? Is it I want what
Yeah,
you've
I
got?
don't know. I don't know. I think it's a perpetuated myth. You can attack any group. I think it's an easily identifiable group.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Sarah, the 1% is any of us.
Mm.
70% of all the billionaires on the planet made their fortune from scratch in their lifetime. And
Yes.
in the next generation, it will be another group.
Mm-hmm.
So when you protest the 1%, you're protesting all of us, because it could be any of us there, the next time around. And and 88% of the millionaires are self-made.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about your purpose, you're absolutely correct. Everybody has an essential purpose, and it's a joy to do what you're good at.
Yes.
And nobody that became a billionaire just said, right, now I'm going to set about the work to become a billionaire. Nobody did it that way. I did.
If they did, they probably failed, because if that was your only agenda, you didn't get very far. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like Elon Musk set out with his brother in South Africa to say, how can we make the internet useful? And they came up with some kind of a yellow pages for vendors,
Mm-hmm.
and they sold it for 20 million. And all of a sudden, him and his brother had 20 million. But he wasn't like, great, I'm going to retire. He was then saying, well, there's still a problem with the internet. How do I pay for things? If I'm sitting in South Africa, how do I buy things from the UK? How do I buy things from the United States? Or how do they buy from me? And then set about with another fellow to create PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
And when PayPal sold, here's another way that it makes money for everybody. When PayPal sold, it sold for $1.2 billion. And everyone's like, wow, so he's a billionaire now. No, not at all. Again, he has to create most of the money for other people. He got 100 million. The rest of that 1.2 billion went to other people that had invested in him along the way. And then you know what he did with the 100 million?
Reinvested.
He started SpaceX.
Yes.
And he went right down to fumes, like 3 crashes in a row. That's $100 million worth of rockets.
Right.
And he had just enough for that 4th one. And so he was never trying to make $1 billion. He was trying to change things for society. And he really got it right with SpaceX, and he really got it right with the Tesla. Oh, and he really got it right with PayPal. And I guess now he wants to get it right for free speech with Twitter.
Yes, that is actually, let's have a little conversation about that, because I agree with free speech, but I also agree that we can't have, bashing of, false narrative up there. That there has to be some accountability, and there has to be some sort of, I suppose, for a better word, policing of what is out there. Have the free speech, but the moment it becomes damning or derogatory or completely and utterly fake, that is going to steer a ship, let's case in point, the election, right? When we have that type of thing, people buy what they see in front of them and they don't think any further. Who actually monitors that? And I think that's where the fear comes in. He wants free speech, but who's monitoring the false narrative?
I think we have to look before that and say, why do you want free speech? So let's just talk about America for a second. So the population is 31% on the right or far right, 24% on the left or far left, and 43% are moderate. However, when Arizona State and Texas A&M did their study of journalists, and their study was financial journalists, people who report on Wall Street companies' business. This should be the most right of center journalists you would think inside a paper. They found that 60% were on the left, 4% were on the right, and 37% were moderate. So media has skewed towards the left. And, we got a lot of real information and a lot of misinformation on COVID. And we get a lot of real information on wealth and a lot of misinformation on wealth. Poverty is a serious issue. It's a serious societal issue. As the rich are getting richer, less people are poor. I can talk about that later. But articles on poverty are only up 30% in the last decade. Articles on wealth inequality are up over 500%. And it's these papers running what sells. And then you also have to think they are highly biased to what sells from the writer and editor's point of view is a left point of view. So we're missing a balanced dialogue. So when a billionaire like Jeff Bezos buys the Wall Street, Washington Post, when a billionaire like Elon Musk buys Twitter, which is really a news media service, and the fellow who owns Salesforce.com bought Time Warner, they all went about it with the idea to say we want a balanced perspective. I don't think hateful media or hateful messages belong on anything.
Right.
But I think if you do look and you say we do have fairly much an even distribution on the right or the left, we do want balanced news coverage that covers the interests of both groups. We don't want news coverage that is predominantly in the interests of only one
Right.
of the group and excludes a big
Yes.
portion of society. And you saw that with media when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were campaigning. The news outlets were left of center and said, Donald Trump is just appealing to a fringe part of society. You saw it in Canada when we had the truckers with their bouncy castles and barbecues parked in Ottawa, that, the news media was saying it's a fringe radical group. And neither of those perspectives were true, and they were dismissing large parts of the population. I think with Elon Musk, with Jeff Bezos, I can't remember the fellow's name from Salesforce.com, they just want to establish back balance in the media. I don't think any of them want hate media, but I think they want to get rid of the imbalance.
I call it the Fox News syndrome. Take a pimple and make it into a volcanic eruption. Because fear sells. And for some reason we buy fear. Why? I don't understand. But it's almost the state of being that we've been conditioned to live in. And when
it's what we want to read.
Well, but it's also a condition that we've been conditioned to live in. Let's understand this, that when we're in fear, we're in doubt, and we're going to buy the narrative because we feel there's something to be afraid of. Instead of it saying, hang on, why am I fearful about this? I need to understand more. What is there to be afraid of this? We're just buying the fear instead of buying what's the reason behind this fear. And that's the news we need to have. Oh God, there was a brilliant TV series back in 2010. It's right here on the tip of my tongue. They did 3 seasons of it. Jeff something was in it. And it was really kind of almost the decline of real news, of as more and more investors came into the company, the more and more they went into titillation or, fake news or covering news up. And
well, if you look at it, Sarah, Google, Google does a great job that if you ask it for something, it will give you 10 or so viable choices on the front page, no spam. So people go to Google to see what's going on. And Google's revenue base for people that are advertising in those top couple slots in Google's revenue base in North America is larger than all of the traditional media outlets combined. They make more money than all the newspapers combined. And so the newspapers are like, oh my gosh, well, what sells? And you're right, they got this fear porn. If it bleeds, it leads. And they started to become more like sensational tabloids, just trying to get people to look at them online or buy their paper. And somehow all this fear porn got biased to the left in most of the cases. In some cases, it got biased to the right. And we're really missing that balanced narrative. And I think when Elon Musk says he's an absolutionist, he believes in absolute foundations of free speech, and Jeff Bezos says it too. He tells the Washington Post, you can criticize me as long as it's balanced and it's factual. And Elon Musk said that. He says, I hope my critics stay on Twitter. You can criticize me, and they're all hoping that it's balanced and it's factual. My book
and not
is factual.
hateful, right? Because this
not
is something
hateful. There's no room for that.
We can criticize, or we can ask questions, justify your actions. That is a dialogue that we should be having, instead of mindlessly being sheeple, buying everything that's been turned out with what's the agenda behind this, right? But if we kind of go, okay, you've made this statement, you've done this and that, why? What, who does it benefit? Who are the people that you're trying to serve here? And if we can open up that conversation to people and give them permission to be intrigued and have a good dialogue back, where you can really actually educate people onto the different diverse points of views, I think we would have less division. What I don't want to see, and what we've seen way too much of, is the hate rhetoric. Because it gathers momentum.
It's just rhetoric.
And it gathers such a snowball momentum. And you've got rational people suddenly becoming pitchfork out to kill. And it's like, for God's sake, do you understand what rabbit hole you've just gone down? Do you want to be that kind of person? And they've got caught up in the hysteria.
Yeah, that's why I wrote my book. I was the recipient of hateful rhetoric around the rich. Even when I was a kid, my dad wasn't that rich, but he made enough money to move us out of one neighborhood, which I liked. It was a very poor working neighborhood, to another neighborhood that was just two neighborhoods away, and the hate from the kids that I hung out with overnight, and I knew it came from their parents, like he thinks he's better than us. I'm like, I don't. I think I'm just moving to another neighborhood. And then even recently, what prompted me to do my book were three things. One was somebody saying, boy, I hope you pay your fair share of taxes. And I was like, well, in Canada, by the way, the top 1% pays 18% of all the income taxes. And so that means if you don't want me here, 1 out of every 5 roads is not going to be paid for. 1 out of every 5 schools will not be funded. 1 out of every 5 hospitals won't get it. In the United States, the top 1% pays 40% of the taxes. In the state of California, the top 1% pays 50% of the state taxes. Governments are highly dependent on the 1% to carry the majority of the freight. In the UK, the top 1%, I believe, pays 27% of the income. But it was this hateful rhetoric, like pay your fair share. I see it from Biden on time, just pay your share. And I'm like, we are already paying more than our fair share. And I work, by the way, in Canada, I work from January 1st all the way through to almost the end of August for the federal government and everybody else. And then I get the last 5 and a bit months to work for myself. Right. Most of my money goes to everybody else. And it's kind of like that. But the rhetoric was just hateful, like pay your fair share. I am paying far more than my fair share. And in fact, I can people saying, oh, and people aren't giving enough of their wealth away. Well, in the United States, average donation, including church, everything, half of Americans donated to some charity or another. On their IRS forms, average donation is $570. And average amount of your income that goes out is just less than 0.5% of your income. That's what the average American would do. But the average wealthy American, if you make more than 200 grand a year, 97% of those people pay to charity, not 50%, 97%. The top 1% in America pays 30% of all charitable dollars. And charities step in when governments can't or won't make a difference. They're very, very important. So, again, this hateful rhetoric, like pay your fair share. The biggest charitable donation in 2020 was Jeff Bezos. He donated $10 billion to climate change. The top 1% on average donates to charity 9% of their income, not less than 0.5% like the average person, 9% of their net income and worth. So, but my book is against the hateful rhetoric. Right. It's not against it. It's just like, here's the facts. You can have hateful rhetoric against the rich, but here's all the facts so that if you did read it, you'd know that you're incorrect. And actually, much of your prosperity comes from the people who temporarily are the richest people in your country. Very hard to hang on to.
Yeah. But, where is it coming from? You have some people who live in a poor mentality. And it is, I will never be able to be rich. I will never, ever be able to have what anybody else is having. And that kind of comes from a conditioning almost from childhood or from lineage of ancestry of you'll only be as good as. You'll never be able to have more. But we're seeing more and more people break away from that going, I'm capable, I'm willing, I want to go after something and I'm willing to take the risk. So we're seeing a lot of breaking away from that. And as you said, you moved away just, a little bit over, and then people resented you. We look up to people who are up on that huge pedestal. We look up to them and hate them at the same time.
Exactly.
Because they haven't, we haven't got what they've got. We also don't realize we don't have the burden they have. And we can have any part of that if we're willing to work for it. Right?
That's 100% correct, sir. 100%.
So it is up to us and our own perception. But I think a great deal of it comes down to that societal stay in your lane. live in your box. You will never be more than. And if we can take that box and that entire dialogue and throw it out and go, I'm going to be as much as I invest in myself to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And wealth's an equal opportunity game. Even in my
Yes.
family, even though, my dad did fairly well for himself, he still always talked about other people that were better than us.
Mm,
Like gourmets do this. And I'm like, but right now we're eating the same food as those people do. Yeah, but they know how to appreciate it. They would know how to do this. And my dad was always very careful saying, we can't drive a car that's better than this.
mm,
It just wouldn't be right for us to do that. And he had, all of those guardrails on it, but it's really the American dream that,
yes.
anybody can make it. And it's an insane amount of work. And, back to what we're saying, nobody starts out to say, I'm going to make $1 million or $1 billion. They just say, I'm going to do something I'm very, very good at. And if you really want to become the best at it, do something that you love, because it
Yes.
takes a lot of work to become the best, whether you become the best artist, best musician, best singer, best CEO, best athlete. It takes a lot of effort from the inside. Exactly what you say. And
Mm,
you said, where does it come from? It does come from the inside.
yeah.
But there's this other myth that as the rich get richer, the poor get poorer.
Mm,
Absolutely not true. The business of creating wealth lifts, tens of millions of people out of poverty every year around the globe. In 1980, at the same time, New Wave came out and all of this stuff, and we still just had DOS on our computers, and computers were still outrageously expensive. There were 15 billionaires that we
mm,
can say around the globe. Today, there's almost 3,000
mm,
billionaires, most in the US, second most in China. And at the same time, people globally living below the poverty line declined from 45% to 22%.
mhm.
And there's a lot more of us today. So it tells you how many people are coming out of poverty. And that trend continues downward. At the same time they came out of poverty, they lived longer. The average
Right.
lifespan went up from 64 years to 73 today. So,
I mean,
the pie gets bigger. The more
yes.
people get money, the pie gets bigger.
We have never had in the history of time so many baby boomers, people of our age, I'm 67, live this long. And not only that, choose a career. 50, 60, 70, decide to go and do something else, something
Mhm,
they love to do. We've never
mhm.
had so many entrepreneurs. We've never had so many solopreneurs. We've never had so many people go, you know what, I've lived my life's expectations. And I realized I was living a lie. I was just following this plan that everybody else had for me. I'm going to step out and go and do something I want to do, I love to do. And, people are turning around and having careers later in life that they absolutely love. Some are really making money out of it. I've still got to work that out. I feel enriched and abundant in the 10 years that I've been doing this, but I haven't matched it with the dollar yet because I do it by donation. Not everybody sees that. So but I think also it's the way we look at riches as well. I'm kind of one of those philanthropy type people that if it enriches somebody's life, I'm enriched. That's just the way
Mhm.
I am. But I always say money is not the evil. It never has been the evil. It's the energy, it's the source, it's the fuel. It's
Money
how we
is
use
distilled
money.
creativity.
Right. And when we have money going out so much on the negative things like war or going out on the wrong avenues instead of being invested in people there are so many people that are just need that hand up. They've got the brilliance, they've got the gumption, they've got the energy, but they need the skills and the tools, which means they need the services that are going to help them to get there. And I'm a firm believer in investing in those people to help them get there, because the more abundant they are, the more they can turn around and help other people create their own abundance.
Hmm.
So we can make millionaires, or whatever people want to put the dollar mark down. Millionaire isn't that rich nowadays when you look at the cost of living. But we can create those people into their own abundance by investing in them, because when we do, we're investing in society as a whole. We're
Yeah, you
creating
are.
opportunities.
Hmm. And you've got some series on addiction too, and so
Yes,
when you're dealing with an addict, you can wish for the
yeah,
addict to get better,
right. It
but
has to
it's
be their
only up
choice.
to the addict to
Yes.
choose. And it's the same thing. People can wish to make money, but it's only up to them to choose to do something, find something that they're very, very good at, and go. And in 2020, there was a lot of discussion about how much CEOs made.
Mm,
And the average CEO made $24 million of the top. If you ran the top 350 companies in the United States, 24 million US dollars was your average compensation, including options that you sold. And everyone was like, outrageous. And they didn't understand these are highly specialized people who have created hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth and prosperity in their
mm,
communities. But what they forgot most of all, these people made less than athletes. They made less than a tenth what our top athletes made. They made less than a tenth of what our top musicians made. They
or
even made
Kardashians.
less money than our top YouTubers,
Right. Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
you know, elite CEOs are like multipliers,
Mm,
creating wealth for everyone else. Even small CEOs are like multipliers. Say you're the person in the corner shop, or even you. I know you run this by donation, but you do pay for services and
all
people
the
to help
time.
you get this done, right?
Yes.
You are creating your own world of prosperity. The shopkeeper that has 4 or 5 employees to run their shop is
Hmm.
creating that world of prosperity. Tesla with 100,000 employees is creating that world of
Yeah.
prosperity. The big thing is you're creating that world of prosperity, and if you can work, you should work. And
Mm,
you might be the person creating the jobs, or you might be the person fulfilling the jobs. But
mm.
I agree with you 100%, Sarah. It it it's your sense of purpose. Like we're actually here
Yes.
to do work on this earth.
Yes. Why are we living here rent free? It's um well, one of the things that I talk a great deal in my shows, and it's one of the things that a little bit that gets me is entitlement.
Hmm.
And no amount of anything, being white, black, polka dot, being rich, being poor, being anything, there is no entitlement. I'm entitled because no, nobody's entitled. We work for something, we contribute to something, and the reward is what we get back. What we plant, what we water, what we seed, etc., is what's going to grow. Who does it benefit? There is
Hmm.
no, as far as I'm concerned, I'm entitled because.
Yeah.
I don't like the word entitlement because it leads to opulence and
Well,
and what I call the ivory towers, which are so far removed from the people who have actually put them in the ivory tower that they don't realize that their actual foundation could be crumbling, because it takes more than just being the rich CEO, isn't it? You've got to know every aspect of your company and everybody in it, and treat
well,
everyone well in order for them to be loyal to you and keep your
if
foundation strong.
if you're the rich CEO, like say you're one of these people that made 24 million last year, that is probably a rounding error compared to the actual money paid out to all the rest of the employees, the government, everything. You still are creating the majority of the wealth for other people.
Mm-hmm. I know, but when I'm talking about money aside, what we're seeing of and what is I think being changed now. A lot of people have got rich on the backs of other people. It doesn't matter if they paid a salary.
No, they haven't. They never
Most,
have, Sarah. If someone made, like the average YouTuber made 30 million, they didn't make it off the backs of anybody. Advertisers paid because they got people were voting with their eyeballs and their internet time to come and watch their videos. If Jeff Bezos made whatever he made, like his asset went up by 57 billion, he didn't make it on the backs of everybody else. He made it because everybody called his company to say, deliver my products. Like Amazon brought the world to the door for
mhm,
thousands and thousands and thousands of small businesses. Most of what they sell comes from small businesses, third parties, and we voted for it. If you received a product
yeah,
from a buyer via Amazon, you paid for it. He wasn't taking advantage of you. You asked them, please deliver a product to my doorstep. This is what I want. I found it on your catalog. When can you get it to me? So not on the backs of you. There's no slave
But what
labor.
about the people we do hear from some Amazon people about simple thing like bathroom breaks. And there is some discord on there on how many hours they have to be on the floor and this and that. Is that all fake? Or, is there cases like that?
I think everybody, if somebody chooses to go to work in a diaper, that's really up to them. If they want to talk about it, that's great. But, where are all the lawsuits? Like Amazon sued for forcing people to wear diapers. Where is it on there? Like I think there's a lot of, anytime someone's successful, there's all that. I remember when McDonald's, the fast food chain McDonald's, came into existence, and all of a sudden it was like, you mean I can go to a fast food outlet and I can just order a hamburger and they'll give it to me right there? I don't have to wait 25 minutes for them to cook it up. It was amazing. But the hate rhetoric against McDonald's, who do they think they are, making fast food? What's this? I remember people adulterated their songs. They serve you rattlesnakes on top of pancakes and, all that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing. Oh, who is this Bezos to make all this money? Oh, for shame, he's making people wear diapers and won't give them bathroom breaks. Well, where's all the class action lawsuits? Maybe somebody did decide, I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to get time and a half because I'm not going to take a lunch break. So I'm going to wear a diaper, and somebody ran to the bank with that. I can tell you my Amazon story. I was in a clinic in the United States. When you can't get the healthcare you want in Canada, if you can afford, well, you could, you just have to wait for it a very long time. You can go to a clinic in the United States, and if you want to pay for it, you can get it quickly. So I chose to do that. At this clinic was, I think he was a warehouse worker for Amazon. And if you wanted to do the full protocol at the clinic, it was for Lyme treatment. It's $9,000 a month. This guy is there for a year, courtesy of his healthcare plan at Amazon. And guess what he has to say about Amazon? They don't pay their taxes. Bezos makes too much money. And I'm like, yeah, but they're paying for you to be here for this extraordinary expensive treatment. Like, don't you have any gratitude for that? No, they just make way too much money. So I think there's, like you say, this hateful rhetoric. And I don't know if those stories are true or not. I've never met anybody that decided to wear diapers to work or whatever. But, I know people who work and manage assembly lines at auto parts companies. They actually say that's the biggest part of their job, is just deciding when and how bathroom breaks can go so the line can run. But that's the job you take. And if you don't like the job you're in 5 minutes, you can find a different job in the internet that you're qualified for. We all can. You could, I could. And just get another job. There's lots of employers. Nobody's forcing anybody to work for anywhere. Unlike socialism, where you are forced to work. And when you talk about entitlement, that's what I think of. I think of the tragedy of the commons. The commons was a shared grassy area where farmers could bring their sheep and cattle to graze. And the tragedy of the commons is a case study where once you provide something for free, everybody's entitled. Well, I'm entitled to it, so I'm just going to go and bring my sheep. And they end up denuding it so that the commons can't feed anybody. And that's what I think entitlement is. I think that's why people starve and die when socialism comes in, because everyone's like, I'm just entitled to be fed and clothed and have a house. It's not part of my entitlement to actually have to work or produce any of that. And Venezuela went socialist, under Hugo Chavez, and it's one of the wealthiest oil economies on the planet. But now 90% of the people live in poverty. When all the tens and tens of millions died after the revolution in China, it's because everybody was entitled. Nobody actually thought they had to work to get food from the farm to somewhere where people could consume it. They thought others were doing it. Tragedy of the commons. That's what I think of when I think of entitlement. I think of socialism. That's really a whole model based on entitlement. Each according to their abilities, each according to their needs. And everyone says, well, here's what I need. And I'm just expecting it to be given to me. And there's nobody working or wanting to work to make it happen.
Some good points there. I know also from the other side, there's a lot of people that really do work hard, but may have obstacles like health obstacles or emotional obstacles that are in their way, and they want to be self-sustainable. They want to be able to do that, but they have those challenges. When we looked at that show, the addictions, it is a mental health problem. We have more people with mental health problems today than ever before, and that is because we're not addressing things, we're hiding things, we're suppressing things, we're also stigmatizing. And so people aren't being able to flourish. And, there is never ever one brush or one size that fits all. And everybody has something behind them. And I think if we actually paid more attention to society of why are they unable to get that better job or to make that other money, where can we help people help themselves? Because otherwise it is the rich getting richer because they're capable of doing it. But not everybody is capable. I'm not wired on the money side of things. I feel very rich, very abundant, and I give a great service, but I'm not wired on the money side of things, right? So
and I'm not wired to be an NBA basketball player.
So, but the thing is, does that mean I'm any less than?
No,
that's what I'm saying. So there are people who are just not wired to make the money. They would love to make the money. And this is where I think that there are, some organizations that, I would say, go make a shitload of money, make it, but take a chunk of that and invest it back in people, invest it back in planet, invest it in something that allows other people growth to become.
I think they do, and but I think people do. Like if you look at philanthropy, right? So if you look at it, Warren Buffett's a billionaire, and he said, I want to give away 99% of what I made to the society that gave it to me. And then he started signing up other people to do it. And so Bill and Melinda Gates, everyone was like, oh, Bill Gates, he's so cheap. He doesn't do any charity. And then he starts with his wife, the Bill and Melinda Gates. And so far they've donated 29.8 billion, and they're solving things governments can't. Like, how do we reduce malaria? How do we get a vaccine for AIDS? George Soros has already donated 17 billion to fostering democracy and voters' rights, like people who want a chance in other countries. Well, you have to have rights first. I mean, half of our population is male and half of our population is female around the globe. But in emerging markets, it tends to be the female part of the population that does all the work that's free, cleaning the house, taking care of the kids, and the men are the only ones that get to be economically independent. Well, that's, or own land, right? And so, that's what he's working on. Bloomberg, I think, has given 11 billion away. Bezos was the biggest donation in 2020, 10 billion to fight climate change, and 760 million has already been spent to nonprofit pursuits that he thinks are making a difference there. There's just a whole bunch of this type of philanthropy. So, not only are they making money for everybody else, they're also finding ways to be meaningful. And I had someone say, well, shouldn't Elon Musk, just give away everything over 10 billion? I'm like, we don't know what his plan is. If you told him, give away everything you got after PayPal, there wouldn't be any SpaceX or Tesla. And Tesla gave away most of their patents to the auto industry for free to make electric cars available, for everybody. And his plan's not done. I find most billionaires, most wealthy people start to decide what to donate to at the end of their careers when they say, that's great. I did the best I could with my talents. And now it's time to give back.
Invest in other talents. Yeah. And for me, I think that we never get rich on our own. And it is,
you can't get rich in a vacuum. You cannot get rich on your own.
You can't. And it's always other people involved, and yes, other people getting paid, etc. But it is, when we choose to take that lump sum of money, and this, I can tell you, especially, I do veteran stories as well, and I can tell you every veteran that I've interviewed realized the government could not give them what they needed. So they created the organization themselves. They understood what the veteran needed. They created it themselves so they could support what the veteran needed. And this is what I see more and more and more today, is people saying, it's lacking. Am I going to wait for government or somebody else to produce it? No, I'm going to produce it myself and invite other people to be a part of it. I champion that. I champion that in a big way.
18 of the United States billionaires are veterans. Fred Smith, who founded FedEx, he's worth just over 5 billion. He's a Vietnam War vet.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph Lauren,
Mm-hmm.
fashion and retail. He's from the Army. Charles Dolan and his family, they're there. Donald Bren, real estate mogul, he's a Marine Corps. And it just shows you like wealth is an equal opportunity
Yeah.
game. But just like how the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, they're equal opportunity too. You just have to be the person who has that talent. But not everybody's playing on the field, you know, in an NBA game. There's people working in the stands, there's people running the
Yes.
event, there's people managing the show. Everyone's important, and we all have intrinsic self-worth. And if you're doing work that's meaningful for yourself and you love it, um, good. That's step one. And if you can become financially independent, where you make enough money to take care of yourself, that's step two. If you make enough money to take care of yourself and take care of your family, that's step three. And then if you make a lot of money that you can take care of yourself, your family, and then take care of the world, you know, that's the step that everybody's moving to. And you know, even if somebody sequestered themselves in an ivory tower, said, I've made billions and I'm just going to sit in an ivory tower, like Howard Hughes did, you know, when he rented out the top floor of the hotel and just stayed there till he died, the money comes back into society. Most of the people that are wealthy today, the odds are stacked against us. Most of us, 70%, there will not be any money left in the family by the time our grandkids are adults. That's just the stats. And that's it's like lottery. Everyone's like, oh, it must be nice to have money. Well, it's very hard to make it. It's a lot of hours. You have to work for free a lot at the beginning, and there's always a risk. It's harder yet to keep it.
Yes.
And people don't understand that. It all comes back into the economy some way or the other. Nobody gets to take it on an island. Nobody gets to take it with them when they die. It all comes back to the economy at some point.
Well, yeah, and that is the nature of the circle of life, isn't it? You know,
Right.
how everything goes back into being regrown. And I think, you know, as a warning for absolutely anybody and anybody, NBA player, rich millionaire, anybody, you can take pride in what you do, but never lose sight of why you're doing it. Don't let ego get in the way, because when ego gets in the way, that's when you start dismissing everyone else that got you there. And it's all about you. And I think that is kind of in any line of work that you're doing, as you grow, you can be proud of who you are and how you're growing and what you're achieving, absolutely, but don't get to be it's all about me. And especially then the narcissism steps in, where it's all about me at the expense of others. And I think that is, we do see a lot of that. Why we see a lot of that, we don't hear your side of the story. We don't hear all of that, because let's look at the news today.
Oh,
It isn't about that. I watch
yeah.
Trevor Noah and The Daily Show and Colbert and Rachel Meadows for real news, because sometimes you have to take it with a dose of humor, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the Newsroom is the show I was talking about,
Okay.
which was really, really good. And it was kind of that turning point of real news of what was wanting to be told and what the shareholders wanted to be told, because it made more money, right? And that was the losing the art of what news really was. There was a time that you looked at the news and you had researched news. It was
Right.
backed up by information. They'd done their due diligence. If the news changed, they changed with what they presented. We don't get that anymore. We get
We don't.
sensationalism. They'll sell
Yeah.
the fear, they'll sell the
They're like
hysteria.
tabloids.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
they're really trying to survive. They're really, really trying to survive. And when
When we stop
Bezos,
buying.
yeah, and that's why they're getting bought. They're getting bought by people who want balance and free speech, to say, don't worry about having the money to survive. Just worry about being a good journalistic source, because
Yes,
we're kind of listening to tabloids.
yes.
And when I grew up, the people in my neighborhood, both neighborhoods that I grew up in, listened to the news and then made up their opinion. Today, people get their opinion from the news. And
Yeah.
the way these algorithms work for advertising based platforms like Facebook, it's an echo chamber. So whatever
Yeah.
engages your interest, which is something you either are very interested in, say cats or dogs on Facebook, or something you really, really disagree with, like some people really agree with who Donald Trump is as a person, then you'll start to just get a lot of that in your feed to engage you. And both of those are just sensationalism put together as an echo chamber for the advertisers to say, if you advertise with us, people will see ads, because we captivate people. We captivate them with love and we captivate them with hate, and nothing in between. And good journalism used to be the thing in
Yes,
between, and then we would decide what we love and hate.
exactly. And it was more of a dialogue of communication with, why is this and what can we do about it? I think it was more invitational as a society to be a part of the solution, where I
Mm-hmm.
feel now all they're doing is presenting the problem. And as far as the algorithm, there's nothing wrong with social medias if you use them appropriately. What you feed is what's going to grow. You don't want to feed the hate rhetoric. Don't respond to the hate rhetoric. Don't put things out that are going to create the hate rhetoric. Don't be engaged.
Mm-hmm.
All of these social medias can be very beneficial. And nowadays in business, that is the new networking and then business platform. But it is,
Sadly, Sarah, they're appealing to our common nature as humans. We all slow down to look at the accident when we drive by.
but not everything is an accident. I have some wonderful people that I know, LinkedIn, mostly the business, Facebook, mostly my supporters. I interact with them. We interact with each other. We support each other. Right. And that is, it is the new dynamic, whether we like it or not. But the beauty of it is it actually brings people from different parts of the world together.
That part about it's great.
So, if we're willing to actually have a dialogue, not just not just this, that, but, make a comment, be engaged, invite a conversation. It's a wonderful platform. But it's everything, as in everything in life, how do we use it? How do we conduct ourselves?
Yeah,
and it all comes back to our own responsibility.
It does. It's a terrible platform for teenagers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think all teenagers, myself included, at times we were terrible people as we were getting hormones.
Oh God,
the
yeah.
kids,
the head spinning around like the Exorcist.
Yeah, and kids are mean to kids, and nobody gets away from being mean to another kid, and nobody gets away from being bullied. Like, it just depends on what time of the day you talk to a kid in school. And these are terrible tools and media examples to put in front of kids who are developing their brains and can't do what you said. Like your viewpoint on Facebook's very realized, very mature, and very purpose-centered. But that comes from 67 years of experience.
But it also, we don't teach our children how to use this tool. If we're putting them in a car, they have lessons and get a license. If they're learning to build a house, we show them how to use the hammer and nails. Why are we not showing them how to be responsible on social media?
You know
and the
why,
consequences
Sarah?
of it.
It just showed up. It just
showed up. There is no tutorial behind it. There's no consciousness behind it. It brings out the coward in people, right? And this is where we as a society now have to say, no, unacceptable. For absolutely everything you do, there is accountability in life. Do you want to pay that price? I brought my kids up that way. You're going to push yourself to the boundary. If you're going to walk that tightrope, understand you can fall. Are you willing to fall?
We've done it before. Society does it. It takes some time.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, we all brush our teeth now.
Yes.
And there was a time when we didn't. No. That wasn't common. We all wear seatbelts when we get in a car. That was a societal thing that a lot of people fought it, and but it came about. And I think the big one is most of us don't smoke now.
Right.
But it used to be everybody smoked.
Right.
And so it's the same thing. These things come out. They come out really, really fast. Like, all of a sudden there's an automobile. And everybody just starts driving it. And then it's decades and decades and decades later. I think it was Robert McNamara, when he was running Ford, said, if there's a way we can reduce fatalities, we should do it. And he brought about the seatbelt.
Yeah.
Totally an unpopular idea, right? Smoking it used to be smoking is good for your health, lose weight. I had my pediatrician when I was a kid with asthma smoked during my thing.
Yes.
How's the asthma today?
Yeah, I know. I've got asthma too. Right? Yeah,
I mean, People
You're
used to
going to a
smoke
smoky
in
room and
planes.
people are wondering why you're breathing or
Yeah.
gasping for breath.
But not now,
No.
like a society we went on. And I think now we're just grappling with this social media, and it's just starting to come out. And, it takes time for it to come out, and there's always opposition to it. But I think as society, these things do go to the better. And we're
Eventually.
also just grappling with climate change, and
Yes.
climate change isn't when you bring the barrel of oil out of the ground. Climate change is when you burn it driving your truck to the protest.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But it's interesting because I've been doing this 10 years now, and I used to be kind of definitely the 40 plus on the listeners. And now I'm noticing I'm getting a lot more 28 to 40 years listening, and sometimes the 17 and the 16-year-olds, which is wonderful. I'm also interviewing a great deal more late 20s and 30s people. And they're already at that thing. It's like, I don't want to repeat what my parents did. I don't want to, go down that rabbit hole. I want to make decisions for myself. I want to do something that I feel I really can connect to. And they're learning a lot quicker than we did, which
Isn't
is
that
really great
great
to
that you're
see.
doing that for them? That's so good, Sarah.
Well, I mean, they're just, you put it out there. I always say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Leave it there long enough and it's going to realize it's thirsty.
Yeah.
Right. So I have 3,000 shows. There is incredible amount of information on there, like what you have shared today, totally different perspectives of different point of views that people didn't know. If we are willing to listen and learn in that education, we're going to change our perceptions, our attitudes, our gratitudes, and also our approach to life. And I think that if we've got to be willing to learn, and how do we learn today? Podcasting, millions of podcasts out there. And they're not all about sensationalism or big, huge, heavy rhetoric.
Podcasts are great. Podcasts are great. It used to be that newspapers had more in-depth journalism, books had more in-depth journalism, and to get into a subject in depth required you to pick that up. But very few people did. Even when it was popular, very few people did. Podcasts like yours allow people to get in very deep on a conversation.
Yes.
And they're very, very consumable. We're getting deeper information, deeper discussion out to more people than we ever had on the globe. Which podcasts are the antithesis of this tabloid, surface, sensational love-hate mechanisms. Podcasts are actually deep thought, debate, and highly consumable. Yeah, like what you're doing. Fantastic. This is how we move forward. This is where the thought is happening. A lot of our thought is happening.
And again, people say to me, why are you just a 10-minute show? I'm not a titillator. I want to peel back the onions. If you can't give an hour of your time plus for this wisdom that you're going to walk away with, for this knowledge that you're going to walk away with, that you can use, that can enlighten you, that can illuminate you, if you're not willing to, take that investment of time, maybe you're not ready for the information.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like the addicts, if you want to get better, you'll get better. If you want to learn, you'll learn. If you want to work, you'll work, if you want, and if you want to volunteer or donate, and it's not just money, you can donate your time.
Yes.
Like you said, your show is all by donations. So you donate your time. You can donate your talents, you can donate your care. You can donate your wisdom. Like everything we do, we're social creatures.
Yeah. And
that's really philanthropy, is what do you have a lot of that you could donate some of it to help another person along their way?
I'm from my perspective, the work that I do, because I have another site where my aim is, to get more books out of there. The next book is the Forgotten Children series, which is different people presenting each chapter, the podcast book, which is the audio book, but it is about the raising of our children, what we need to do to change the whole dynamics. Because I can tell you from the years of been doing this and the work I did before, most of societal's problems today come from an inner child that's been injured or not heard or not listened or given a voice to when they're young. And we need to change the way we raise our children. And then we will have a better society as they grow up. But it's also about my Fund Action program, which is there for people who are in a transition in life. Most of the time, their wallet is empty and they can't afford the services they need to get back on their feet to be of service to others. So, my plan is to get that fund action going where we subsidize that to help people get back on their feet. So for me, it's like when people do have a lot of money and they can only give so much of their own presence, invest in the people that are putting out the work. I have a support the supporters, people who have got organizations and the work that they're doing for other people in abuse, in veterans, in children, in this and that, you know, what they're doing and the time that they're giving. I want to see them supported. They're already giving so much. And I want to see them supported. So I'm one of those people that I think that rich people can help those people who are doing the work to help other people become more productive and stand tall in their own lives in society.
You're a multiplier.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's what we're here for. It's like, I think if we could see the enrichment and the abundance that lies within each and every one of us and help ignite that into sustainability and abundance that then helps other people, I think we have that circle of life that constantly keeps growing and benefiting. Because we don't want just a few rich people that are investing all of their money. We want to enrich people, wallets and all, so that they can have that beautiful ripple effect out to everyone around them.
Yeah. And, you know, Sarah, it starts like what you're saying, it starts with yourself, like enriching yourself, and then it's enriching your family, and then it's enriching the world, you know.
Yes.
And I think the abundance that we have, like not just rich people, everybody, you know, we have abundance. We have, you know, Iran does not have social systems that support like we do, right? So we've got a very supportive network, even if you're just having a basic job, and you still have optionality and options to you that in many parts of the world will be would be, you know, considered wealthy. It's still up to the family unit to do their thing. Like America right now has a pandemic of fatherless children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, it's all good to say the rich have to do something, but, you know, a question back to a lot of these guys that walked out on their family. What are you doing for your kids? You had those kids. What are you doing for them?
That's their own personal responsibility. Why are they walking away from it? Right? Where's their accountability?
And you know, and so that's where the accountability goes. It's yourself first, then it's yourself and your family, and then if you have enough, it's yourself and the world. But to skip over taking care of your family, and then say, now I just want everybody else to do their job taking care of the world, that's a bit of a cop-out. You know, I think it all happens in the family. And you said it. What do the parents have to do? You know, one of the charities we support is a charity in Calgary, Alberta called CUPS, and it's a poverty intervention charity. And the intervention in breaking the cycle of poverty is all about housing, education, and healthcare for CUPS. But the intervention starts prenatal. And they say it's how you're raised as a baby starts shaping how successful you can be in going about life. And like what you said, how poor perpetuate poor sometimes in their mindset. That actually starts at the childhood thing. You know, one of the things they're teaching is they're teaching new moms how to actually physically take care of your baby, that they need to be hugged. You know, they need to be comfortable, because these young moms are coming from families where they didn't have that, and there's nobody to show them that. So, you know, you're getting on a different subject than, you know, my book and all of these things, but you're getting on the subject of families have responsibilities to themselves before they go out and start criticizing the world or saying, you owe me. They have an obligation to look and say, how am I taking care of my family?
You know, every single one of us is accountable for our own life. Now, we don't have a choice to what happens to us, but we can look at what is happening for us, because every single one of us is here to grow from our experiences, discover our strength, our courage, our abilities, our skills, become that beautiful instrument that we know how to really play, and join an orchestra in which to play it in. Right? Every single one of us has a journey in life. If we're not willing to grow from the process, if we're wanting to stay in victimization, we will never grow. And then you will
Yeah.
always hate everybody around you because you think everybody is out to victimize you. But
Yeah.
everybody can be the millionaire either financially or emotionally. It's a question of how do you go through the process and invest in yourself. So that
Mm-hmm.
whole attitude of self, there isn't one person in this world that hasn't got something that is a challenge in their life. How do we deal
Exactly.
with that challenge? How do we
Yeah.
rise up, meet that challenge? I have a health issue that is a partner. I have treated it as a partner. Sometimes it needs more attention than I want to give, and I have to give it because that partner has spoken. And then that allows me to have the voice when I need the voice. We learn to live within whatever parameter or whatever we've been given, but it's the constant willing to grow, to learn, to be. And if we're not willing to
Yeah.
do that, we just sit back and go, the world owes me, or it's everybody else's fault. As there's a finger pointing at you, there's three pointing back at you,
Mm-hmm.
going,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing about it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's a tough journey for everybody. Everybody has to do real work. And I
Yes,
think I think joy comes in hard work, whether you're
yes,
working on yourself, whether you're working on your talent as an artist, a businessman, an athlete, or just a volunteer down
yeah.
at the SPCA. You know what? It's hard work for all of us, but it's what gives us meaning and joy, I really think, at the end of the day.
Appreciation and gratitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two great big things. They
Absolutely.
will bring you the joy. And it's a different perception that you've brought today and all the billionaires and millionaires out there that it isn't being talked about because we're getting, the Fox News and CNN effect of the rhetoric out there.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost really what is real. We've become so skeptic of what we hear today, we don't believe anything anymore. And we need to go back to the integral news, the integral of these are the facts. This is the researched knowledge on what I'm bringing to you. This is the dynamics of really what is going on. And we've got to be willing not only to talk about it, but to listen to it as well, or read
Very
it,
true.
whatever the case is, right?
Very true. I agree.
So, no, there is evil in the world. Yes, there is. There are the people that have absolutely no soul or no heart. And those are the people that will always go and do other people harm for their own good. And that is a fact. But each and every one of us, we can be the abundance we seek. And it's in every one of us. And whether if we look at not money as our evil, which a lot of people have been brought up to, money's evil,
Mm-hmm.
money's the
Mm-hmm.
devil. Money is just e-commerce. It's just transactional. What you do with that money is the deciding of how good it can be or how bad it can be. So if you want to see the solution in the world, be the solution in the world.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
So let us not get at the rich anymore about how bad they are and look at how much they're contributing. And there are a lot of people that are scared of being rich. They're scared of being rich because there is a hell of a lot of responsibility. There is a lot of judgment on it, as you notice, moving away just a few streets away. And I think we have to kind of develop somewhat of a thing of it doesn't matter what other people's opinion is, as long as I know I'm doing it from an integral place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the world's better when it's not comparative and we're not
Ah,
comparing how I feel about myself towards what I think
yes.
another person thinks about them. But, it's just, are you getting better? And are
Yeah.
you doing the best with what you have? And ironically, it doesn't matter how rich you are. You have to come to terms with the fact
Yes.
that you'll just never have all the pieces, and you just
Mhm.
have to move forward with the pieces you have and make the best out of it. That's your
And
job.
money is a wonderful generator, but it doesn't make you happy unless you're happy
Yeah,
to
you have to
start
be
off with.
happy first.
Yes, exactly. You've done numerous shows on people where I became a slave to the money, the car, the house, and this and that. And I worked 20
Hmm.
hours a day and I had no time to enjoy anything.
Hmm.
Right. Well, that is, kind of being a slave to the image of money. But there's many ways of making smart money where the money then works for you.
Or just making enough money, like
Yeah.
we're just abundant. Like we
Mm,
can buy antibiotics, we can buy orange juice, we
mm,
can buy fresh produce. When there's snow on the ground, we can buy oranges in the store.
yeah.
It's really quite remarkable. But wealth is an equal opportunity game to
Mm-hmm.
those who have the talent, the interest to do it. But it's just one game. Society has business.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great. And then business contributes to the government. The government keeps some
Yeah.
to make services and do infrastructure, stuff like that.
And
And
sometimes
then the government,
misappropriate.
yeah, and then the government also redistributes
Mm-hmm.
wealth, and that's where we get, the arts, the social causes, and all of those are very necessary. And it's not a fair perspective to say the rich are bad because they're the money
Mm.
makers for everybody else. Not at all. We're just part of the fabric. And by the way, everybody's just playing a role for a temporary period of time.
Yes.
If you could just keep your money forever, all the lottery winners would be on the Forbes 400 list. Everybody who won a
Yes.
Powerball. But it's not like that.
No.
Money really wants to move of its own accord. And if a family can keep it for more than enough generations, it means that the kids, the grandkids, and later on were just as talented as the founders in figuring out how to keep generating wealth for them and their community. But that's the exception. Just like athletes,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you see like Brett Hall was Bobby Hull's kid, and so they both played in the NHL. Well, that's the exception. Most
Yes.
NHL players, their kids did not play in the NHL, right?
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Manning, Archie Manning was his dad, right? And played in the NFL, but that's not the rule. Not all NFL players have their kids play in the NFL, and so the same thing's true with wealth. So I think it's an equal opportunity game. It's a good game, and it's just part of the great society that we enjoy. It's part of our prosperity.
Yeah. And there's plenty of prosperity to go around. I mean, the thing today, oh, yeah, they had opportunities. They created opportunities. They pursued opportunities, right?
Exactly.
As you said, how many millionaires started off in the dust? Look at Oprah
Most
Winfrey.
of them.
Right,
Most of them.
exactly. And it is, and I think actually very often that is where the real work ethic comes in. That's where the drive comes in. And that's where, again, going through the process of becoming rich, the
Mhm.
responsibility of becoming rich, what to do with that money, how to generate it so that it keeps growing, right? Is a huge responsibility. Not everybody's cut out to do that
It's a very
well, but
talented
yeah,
responsibility.
yeah.
Very few are, and that's why most of it returns. But you don't have to be rich to be a hero. And you talked
No.
about it, earlier. Like during COVID, my heroes were the two ladies who ran the checkout at Canadian Tire in my
Mm,
community and sold everybody all the stuff we needed, toilet paper
yes.
included, to keep going through the pandemic. And they were there when it first came out. They were there when the plexiglass shields came out.
Yes.
They were there when everybody had to wear masks. And these people came into work every day, and customers got edgy, and these gals never let us down.
Right.
And it's just another example of people doing what they love. Like they really, I could really tell they knew everybody needed to get something in order to feel complete that day, and they were there for us.
Right.
You know, so yeah, it can be anybody. You doing what you do, me doing what I do,
And the
the
thing
the
is, you know
ladies at
what?
Canadian Tire doing what they do.
Every single person has a role in their life. Everybody. Not everybody
Everybody
is meant
does.
to be the millionaire or the billionaire. And it is, all the people that help you become the millionaire or the billionaire. It is, everybody gets there by other people's participation, right?
It's a
And
full participation sport. You bet.
exactly. And if we appreciate everybody's role, and I think, one of the things this society has done is made lesser than. And my argument is this: if you walk into a building, you're going to talk to the CEO and you're going to talk about doing a big deal, but everything is dirty, the elevator, the corridors, the this and that. Do you want to do business with that CEO?
Yeah.
Because, the janitor who keeps everything clean and pristine has actually given you the canvas in which for you to build on. So do not
Mhm.
dismiss the janitor and think they're a lowly person. They've set the stage.
Yeah,
right?
it takes a community for everything,
Yes.
even healthcare. You
Yes.
know, when you go to the hospital or you go to see your doctor, you're thinking, oh, it's the doctor. The doctor is all that.
Yeah.
The doctor is just a piece of it. Somebody somewhere in the world is making all of the medicines that are at the drugstore that the
Yes.
doctor is going to connect you to. Somebody's creating the supplies. Somebody's creating the institutions where the doctors get educated. It's a big, big, big
The
supply chain.
database, the
Yeah.
documentation, the nurses, everything. Yeah. The
And back,
janitors.
and yeah, exactly. And somebody has to take out all the garbage
Yeah,
from the doctor's
exactly.
office and dispose of it safely. Like, we are a social community. Everybody has a role to play.
Yes.
And this kind of society, the poor will always be with us. There will always be people who can't work, and there will always be people who won't work. But for those of us that can, we should.
Yeah.
And there will always be those among us who have enough to take care of the world, give back, and those are where the programs come that take care of the ones that we forget. And I think we do a better job now than we ever had
Mm.
in supporting
I
the
mean,
least among us.
the internet for me, I could not physically do the work I did before anymore with my condition. The internet opened up an opportunity for me, and I was with another network for 18 months, 13 months before I'd started my own. Didn't even know what a podcast was back then. And it opened up an entire different world for me that works within the parameters of my condition. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, is don't use your obstacles as an excuse. Find a way to make that obstacle work for you or work around it, right?
Hmm.
There is always something we can contribute. And when we are contributing, when we have a meaningful purpose that we're passionate about, that truly is our own personal enrichment. And we are really being a part of the solution to society
Hmm.
and not being a burden. So I
Hmm.
think we need it for ourselves. We need it for ourselves to participate in any which way.
Yeah. The same thing, exactly what you're talking about, the same thing that happens to people happens to companies. There's always there's always a part of a person that's dying, and there's always a part of a person being born, and there's always a part of a person shrinking, a part of a person growing. It's the same. Like when Netflix started, it was DVDs that
Yeah.
you get them in the mail, you send them back in the mail. And then that business thing was dying. And so then it became online content, distributing content from other people online. And then that started to die. And then it was like, we got to create our own content. And so they started with House of Cards. And then that wasn't enough. And that started to die. And then it was like, we have to syndicate content. Like some of their hit shows, like Money Heist, is Spanish. So they syndicated, brought it in. And now, that's not even enough. And they're starting to lose subscribers. We're all like that. Microsoft did it with DOS, and then with Windows, and then with cloud-based services that you subscribe to. And people and companies are like that. We're always just trying to survive. And sometimes when we're doing that, we find the best of ourselves, and we're rewarded with great happiness, sometimes also with great fame or great fortune, but always with great happiness when we find out how we're best applied.
Right.
Everybody
And
likes saving the day, right?
exactly, exactly. And the thing is, the fame and fortune, if that's what you're going after the wrong
The
reason.
wrong thing.
But if fame and fortune comes about and you've earned that right, you
Good for you.
actually know the responsibility that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
it's I had a show on last week was, why do we not pay attention? Why do we not read what's in front of us? And I think so many people are skipping parts of their lives, rushing forward, or got too much going on. They're not paying attention. They're not being present in the now and seeing what's in front of them. And you didn't get rich by skipping over areas.
You're not
And
allowed to.
you can't, because that's part of the process, because otherwise you have a dirty, great big hole in a system, like, oops.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to pay attention to every step. Now, some steps are easier than others because you've addressed them before and you know what to do. Other steps, no, you need to really take the time to actually understand what this next step is. But I don't care if you're rich, poor, or what avenue you're in, everything is one step in front of the other.
Exactly. And there's seldom shortcuts. It's like if you say, I want to go run, a 10K race tomorrow. You can't just take a shortcut and say, I'm here, I bought new runners, I'm ready to go. It just doesn't work like that. And it's the same thing with your career. You can't say, I'm going to be the best athlete because now I really want to. You would have to do all the work, and there's no shortcuts. But like you said, you can do something new and you can continue to find your purpose in almost any season
Yes,
of your life, can't
absolutely.
you? Look
Yeah.
at you.
Well, look at our Olympians, how soul crushing it is for, for us as the spectator to see all the years, sometimes their entire life dedicated to that sport, and then to miss out on the medaling by minuscule, second. And, but instead, look at how far you have come. And I think this is something I encourage people to do whenever they feel, oh gosh, I haven't got where I want to be. Turn around and look from where you've come from. Look at the
Exactly.
strides you've already made. Look at where you are. Let this propel you forward. Don't give up now.
Yeah. Yeah. Olympians is a great thing. Like I was saying, most billionaires and 88% of the millionaires made their money in their lifetime, and you can't hang on to it forever. It's very,
No.
very hard. Same thing with Olympians. You see some people that get a gold once and they're never back in another Olympic Games, and then you have people that are a little bit dynastic. Like our swimmer and Michael Phelps, and he can go to several Olympics and medal, but then there's a new generation.
Yes.
But what people realize is how much these people do for their sport.
Yes.
And how many other people are inspired to take it up to work, and how much better the society gets from them being the best and being encouraged to be the best and competing and earning it. How many more people in the next generation will be the best? And I think it's the same too, for wealth creation.
Yes.
It just keeps coming around, and every generation there's just more.
Inspiration begets invitation.
Yeah, very good.
It invites us to believe that, yes, we can. And what do I need to do to get there? Yeah. And, your journey to your success and where you are has been your journey. It inspires other people to be inspired by the journey and maybe to even apply some of the same skills that you did, but it's going to lead them to a different destination. And stop looking at the destination, just look at the journey and the goal in front of you. Your destiny, I don't think anybody sets out, maybe an Olympian, I'm going to have a goal, that's what I'm aiming for. And, maybe they get one gold or a silver or bronze or none. But very often that destination is totally different vision to what it started out to being. But through that journey of exploration and growing and allowing that growth to be, you end up where you're meant to be. And boy, it's always bigger than you thought it would be.
It is. That is very well said, Miss Sarah. Very, very well said.
So how do people get the book, and how do people reach you?
So the best way for people to get the book is on Amazon. It's on Amazon in hardback, and you can download the ebook on Kindle too. And I would say the best is to search Bullen and then the word wealth, and then it'll come out In Defense of Wealth, because I spelled defense the Canadian way, like defenseman Bobby Orr kind of way. And that's the easiest way to get the book, for sure. And for people to get in touch with me, the best way is on LinkedIn. Sarah, you messaged me on LinkedIn, and that's where I am. And that's the best way to get in touch with me.
So they can go to bullenbooks.com.
Correct.
They can catch you there. And then on LinkedIn, they just put in your name, Derek Bullen, Bullen, and Derek is spelled D-E-R-E-K, because I know sometimes it's a double R or an I-C-K. So it's Derek, D-E-R-E-K, Bullen, B-U-L-L-E-N. You can find him on LinkedIn. And we can go to, bullen.com for the book as well. And you're also on Twitter.
Yes.
So no restraints there now, right?
No excuses there. So thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, that's right.
And, it's, before we go bashing people, let's understand what it is, who they really are, what they're really doing. And I think this is, again, the sensationalism that we are seeing, the hurricane of hysteria that we're seeing in the world, we have an option not to buy it and not be a part of it. And when we start saying, no, we want real facts, real news, we want it done intelligently, we want it to be an invitation into conversation to know more, then I think we're going to go back to a more educated and more well-balanced society. But that's up to us. We've got to be a part of it.
Well said.
Thank you so much for sharing here today.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye, Sarah.
My pleasure. And to everyone else out there, remember, richness starts within the heart, doing something you really love doing and allowing it to grow to be whatever it's meant to be. And then in turn, giving back and fueling opportunities for others. And you are the generator for so many other opportunities. Until next time, bye for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.